North Korea is known for many things. In our collective conscious, it's become associated with the 1950s war that split Korea and left it decimated for many years, the increasing militarization in response to these and other events, the perpetual state of unease between the north and the south parts of the greater area, even many accusations of human rights violations, many credible, others,
feeding him to
well,
120
perhaps less so,
starving dogs.
but also we just hear so much about how weird it is. And one of the weird things that have come from this country is Red Star OS. North Korea's own operating system. I'm a big fan of operating systems, so I'd obviously heard of Red Star before, but I'd never really investigated it or even tried it before. So what is it all about? Actually, there have been several versions released over the past 18 years, with the first one releasing in 2008, based on the Linux of the time. I mean, actually, all versions of Red Star are based on Linux, so don't take that as some kind of special feature of 1.0. Anyway, throughout the 2000s and 2010s, versions 2.0 and 3.0 were released, both being easily accessible online. That said, there is a version 4.0, but apparently you can only get it if you find an installation disk in an actual computer store in North Korea itself. Not too much is known about it, but the website NK Economy, who write about North Korean affairs for a Korean audience, managed to get their hands on it. From what they've published, it seems fairly similar to previous versions, with some changes in things like security and layers for software compatibility. To my knowledge, nobody's really reviewed this version of Red Star on YouTube, and it's just generally too inaccessible for anybody to do it. And trust me, I tried to get myself a copy. I was at such lows that I found this random ass ad on SoundCloud with a link in the description that even Twitter finds suspicious, and I actually tried to follow it, albeit unsuccessfully. I probably used the Firefox page translation feature more than I ever have in my life with how many random Chinese and Korean blogs I read about the damn OS. Even still, I couldn't get myself a copy of Red Star 4.0. And if this article I found is to be trusted, it can't even be installed anyway without a government issued authorization key. So I guess that's that. There's still a lot of video left. Well, I guess I'll just install Red Star 3.0. I bet it will have something interesting. Wait. First of all, if you're new here, there's a very specific way I do these operating system explorations. If you've already seen my channel, feel free to skip to this timestamp. Everyone else, well, roll the clip. I follow a 10-step program, the Pyramid YouTube channel operating system task list. I evaluate each operating system step by step, with some unstructured exploration allowed here. If I succeed in a point on the task list, I give it a check, otherwise it gets a cross. Sometimes I give it 0.5 marks, but that's rare. In the end, I get a scale between 0 and 10, demarcating how quote-unquote successful the operating system is according to a bunch of common criteria. And that's all, folks. Okay, let's actually get into it now. The first thing I did was download the English ISO of Red Star OS from this archive page, then boot up virt-manager and create a VM for Red Star. You know how it is. I did that 3 times. It failed. All 3 times. So I just did the next best thing and went into VirtualBox, since it does its system configuration differently, and I sometimes find that it works better for 32-bit operating systems, which version 3.0 of Red Star happens to be. The install was a pretty typical Linux-based installation process, although I did notice 2 interesting things. First of all, I loved how helpful the messages were. I mean, look, I'm on the first screen right now, but it's all in Korean. Let's click this little question mark. Wonderful, that really helps me understand what's going on. The second thing is that for some reason the default location was Pyongyang. I mean, it kind of makes sense given that that's the capital and most populous city of North Korea, but usually Linux distros will try to auto-detect your location instead of assuming something specific. Apart from that, the only other kind of interesting thing was the customized bootloader they had after the installation finished. Anyway, looks like we're in the system now. Red Star is already a graphical system, so there wasn't anything special I actually had to do myself, but there was one problem. Like, what the fuck does this say? I don't speak any Korean whatsoever, and I don't know how to read Hangul, so I had to change this. I honestly felt slightly betrayed that the quote-unquote English version of Red Star OS was in no way anglicized. Basically, I spent a pathetically long time figuring out how to switch the locale to ENUS, or even open the terminal in order to do so. But thanks to this article, I managed to do it. After restarting the virtual machine, I finally feasted my eyes upon text I could understand. Now that the interface was in English, this next task was trivial. This operating system is Linux based, nothing crazy to say. Of course, it's capable of running multiple different resolutions. So I set it to the resolution of my monitor, 1920 by 1080, and moved on with the exploration. I thought this would be easy, but actually I got led astray for a few minutes. See, during the installation, I selected some random Korean option that seemed like it would enable a bunch of development utilities for C and C++, which I often use to complete this challenge during OS reviews, but I couldn't find anything pertaining to them in the application menu. I just assumed the option did something else I didn't realize, so I instead opened the default Notepad style text editor and began programming. After completing FizzBuzz and figuring out how to save the file, I discovered that, in fact, there was a suite of C and C++ development tools installed, but they were just hidden away in this section of the application menu for some reason. So I just copied my FizzBuzz code and pasted it into a new project, and from there it was fairly easy to guess how to build and run it, even though I'd never used that particular IDE before. As you can see, it works correctly. So big up on that. Red Star operating system 3.0 English release. Actually, we should group these next 3 tasks together. Yeah, the internet doesn't work. The OS has some kind of package management solution called the Software Manager, which I couldn't find any repositories for. It has a browser called Naenara, or Our Nation in Korean, which doesn't load any pages. And you can't even ping Google DNS. All despite the fact that my VM network settings were set up and I chose DHCP during installation instead of manual network configuration. So yeah, no new programs, games, or internet. Okay, honestly, I did come up with a game, but it was literally just the thing you do with your friends in school where you repeatedly press +1 on your calculator until you got bored of counting. Not much of a game, to be clear, but I did get to 1000. Now that I'm done reducing the lifespan of my mouse, we can move on to the next part of the video. Now this is where things get fun. There's a lot of things I find special about Red Star. There's a selection of default wallpapers, some of which include the operating system's logo. Wait, oh wow, that is possibly the lowest resolution nature image I've seen in my entire life. Incredible. In terms of general tools, there's a video player called QuickTime Player 1.0, a screenshot tool that makes a camera noise when you use it, music notation app built in. Look, I'm sorry, I have to do something real quick. As far as I can tell, this program is exclusive to North Korean software retailers. It's called Ongbang-ul, meaning silver bell in Korean. Apart from all that, we also have a set of Office programs, clearly inspired by something like Microsoft Office or LibreOffice. Works well enough, not really much to say there. I also quite like the sticky notes feature, very helpful in case you need to remember something. You can also configure this taskbar at the bottom and put it on the side. You can make the icons magnify as you slide along them, similar to something like macOS. Cool features for a Linux distro, basically. Again, this operating system is just Linux based. Yes, the power off and reboot work as expected, albeit they're a bit slow, although that might be influenced by the fact that I'm running it in a virtual machine rather than on native. I really like how this operating system looks. It's rather old and people don't really design OSs like this anymore since it's not in style or whatever, but still, the macOS but jankier aesthetic has a certain charm to it. The theming is fairly cohesive, the colors make sense together, frankly the logo doesn't get enough credit for how good it looks, and so on. I pretty much only have one complaint, which is that not all programs are localized into English. Is that a style issue? I don't know, but that's where I'm putting these words. All in all, I give Red Star the point. I set off the holy grail of destructive Linux commands and waited. Usually this would just force the system to become unusable, but this actually forced the VM to reset. I tried to get it running again, but it would just get stuck on the screen. I probably waited like 10 minutes, but nothing happened. Maybe if I just waited 11 minutes instead of 10, it would have magically come back, but I decided to call it a day and conclude the exploration. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. This was kind of a first when it comes to my OS exploration series, since I've hitherto never done them in a scripted format, but it was a lot of fun to make nonetheless, and if the audience reception is positive, I might transition into making more of these. So tell me guys, what do you think? And if you liked what you saw, remember to press thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and join the Discord server. That'll be all.